Welcome back, y'all, to episode 20 of the Spittin' Hoops podcast with yours truly, Max, and my co-host. I keep pointing the wrong side, Anthony. Anthony, how are we doing? Today we have a special episode. We're going to have a special guest on to do some team previews. We're going to be doing some team previews in the next few months, just running through every team, previewing their season, talking about last season, acquisitions, predictions, etc. And we're starting that today with the New York Knicks and a very special guest. Before that, we have some other stuff to run through. But Anthony, how are you doing?
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited to start this season preview with all these different teams. It's great to hear other fans' perspectives. So very much looking forward to it, and just excited to have some good basketball going on during this offseason, man. It's been great to see FIBA and all these stars coming out, this new generation.
No, definitely. I mean, FIBA, I've never really been super into it. This is like the most I've ever followed it. Dude, Luca is disgusting. Like, that's all. Every time I watch him in the FIBA games, it's like he's a cheat code, bro. Like, unbelievable. But we're actually gonna start with that is the FIBA tournament so far. Team USA is 4-1. They qualified for the knockout stages. I believe they're playing Italy coming up. Funny little storylines with Paolo obviously rejecting the Italian national team to play for the US, even though he said he was going to try to play for Italy. And it's also kind of fun with this all comes right after the Noah Lyles comments, basically saying the NBA champs aren't world champs. And then Team USA loses to Lithuania, which is just a funny, like, added piece of the plot. Like, I don't really feel too heavily either way there, but it's just fun.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like comment kind of coming from Noah Lyles out of nowhere. Like, bro, you just won. You're probably objectively the fastest man in the world right now. So congratulations. And for your sport, that's a big deal. For even for the USA, which is a great sprinting country, it's tough. It's tough. There's so many great countries out there. It's not quite the same with basketball. We just saw, like you pointed out, any country can beat any other country in one given game. So it's just kind of like a what's your point, past your point kind of take. It felt like it's like, okay, like yeah, technically you're right. We're not the world champions. We're the champions of the NBA. Are the Denver Nuggets going to beat the Shanghai Sharks? Probably, but who knows?
That's why we play the games. Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
I definitely I agree with you. I thought it was kind of weird, but also, like, who's to say, like, I don't know. Everyone thinks of like the World Cup for soccer as like that's the defining tournament, that's the world champs, but like there's also like, there's the Champions League, they're the champions of Europe, and effectively that's the best club in the world per every year. Like, I kind of view the NBA similarly to that. Kind of the thing that I find funny is like whoever defined like the world champs, why do they have to be like a country? Like, why can't it be a team? I don't know.
Right.
I guess it would be great to have some sort of tournament like that, like a club World Cup for basketball.
So sick. So sick.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Like, the NBA teams
Yeah.
are the best teams in the world, bro. Like, I can't even, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Sort of a whatever take.
Yeah. And also it's just like weird. It's like, bro, enjoy your shit. It was so funny to see how the NBA community though united around roasting him. That was unbelievable. Like,
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
hilarious.
I was seeing like Denzel Valentine like tweeting about it.
Oh, yeah.
What?
You see that meme with the army guys, and then there's like the clown in the middle of the army guys?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
like all these players.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's some fun games coming up. Germany versus Latvia, Lithuania, Serbia, Canada, Slovenia. Overall, my big takeaway from this tournament is Anthony Edwards is super nice. Like, he is disgusting. Like, I don't know. Also funny to see like Tremont Waters is like the 10th overall scorer. I believe he was on like the Celtics like a few years ago. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I
Yeah.
think he played for Wembanyama's team in France for half the season this year. Something like that. So some funny names that you just see flying around. Luca is the top scorer of the tournament. Surprise, surprise. But yeah.
Dude, couple thoughts. First on Anthony Edwards, it's interesting because like it's not like Cat's been playing badly for the DR either. He kind of has to eat up a lot of their like stats. However, he's been playing pretty well. I feel like now there's a bit more justification for the NBA world to acknowledge something that I think people have been thinking about for a while, which is the Timberwolves will go where Anthony Edwards goes, not where Cat goes.
Mhm.
And I think people have been thinking that for the last couple of seasons, or like could see the writing on the wall, didn't really want to say anything. And now this really seems like the time where he can kind of do something that the Timberwolves franchise hasn't really seen since Kevin Garnett, which
Definitely.
is very special.
It's like a coming out party for Anthony Edwards. Like he kind of had it towards the middle of last season. I think if you were watching Anthony Edwards, like you could tell like there was a jump that was made. But this is really like the coming out party of Anthony Edwards. And like I think he wasn't even starting one of the first few games. Like he's by far the best player on the team.
It's one
Like
of the only times I bet you would disagree with your coach.
with Steve Kerr,
Didn't
we have a lot
say
of
something
different.
about
Look, Steve knows more basketball than me, but we've got a lot of differences for sure. As much as he is an amazing, like, god tier coach, like,
oh yeah.
but yeah. um, yeah, I we'll see. I mean, this tournament's gonna be fun. I still think the US wins it, to be honest, but like, yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
moving on, then we did want to talk about the is there anything else on FIBA you want to touch on?
FIBA, only other thing is can we just say like how cool is it that Rondé Hollis Jefferson
Yes.
looks exactly like Kobe Bryant? Like it's crazy.
Dude,
Like
he's
how
so
awesome is that?
good, bro.
Yeah, and like
It's
he's a good
unbelievable.
NBA player.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he
He,
might. I mean, like, yeah. What's up? What's up?
he was like a lottery pick. Like, and he was bouncing around the league up until super recent. Was
Mhm.
he not on a team at all last year?
He was not. I was looking up his stuff a little bit. He's also awesome representing Jordan. Like that was
Yeah.
just such a pull. Um,
It's so random.
and
It's amazing though.
so like so specific. Yeah, dude, Brooklyn 20 he's 28. Last season was 2020 2021. He played for Brooklyn, Toronto, Portland.
So he's been out of the league.
Uh, so he's been out the league.
Yeah.
However, it's interesting.
It's funny because like, yeah, you're right. He looks like Kobe, but it's the NBA is such a you're either dunking or you're making threes, and that's not at
Yeah.
all like his game. Rondé Hollis
Mhm.
Jefferson, kind of a defensive guy, and he can't really shoot the three. That was kind of the reason he washed out of the league. Um, but it's funny because
Mhm.
like this FIBA style kind of helps players like that, in my opinion.
So much. Yeah. Oh, stoked.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was my only other big FIFA thought right now.
understandable. Moving on, we need to talk about the in-season tournament. One of my favorite additions in the whole NBA, like play-ins, super fun. I think the in-season tournament is just manufactured fun, and like everyone's playing the same amount of games, except some people are going to play like a final game, and like I think it's going to be super great. So we're going to run through the format really quickly. The groups were announced, so there's three teams. Three groups per conference. And those groups were drawn based off of a certain formula of how the teams finished in the regular season last year. Not super relevant, but out of these groups, the winner of each group plus one wildcard team, the best team that did not qualify according to points.
Two.
Yeah, the best team that doesn't finish first. There's
Top
two.
two team. Yeah, because it's 8 total.
Oh yeah, but one for the East and one for the West.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So one wildcard team in the East, one wildcard team in the West, and then they all play each other in the East versus West thing. Comes to the finals, from what I can understand. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what is interesting is that something that I thought and hoped for was I thought these games would count extra and that would give teams an extra motivation. Like it would be an extra regular season game. But interestingly enough, each team will still end up playing 82 games. The teams that don't make this knockout stages, they'll be scheduled to play each other in some regular season games. And then the final game doesn't even count as a regular season game. So this is really just like they portioned off a piece of the schedule, and then two teams are going to play one extra game, and that's about it. I kind of hoped that it would have a little bit more stakes, to be honest, but I think it'll be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. At least the championship game,
Mhm.
sort of an incentive for really, really good players.
Yeah.
If you get the Nuggets and the Heat, like a finals rematch or something, which is feasible based on this bracket, how it's like formed there, they'd be on the other sides. You're probably sitting Jimmy Butler. You're probably sitting Jokic. You're probably sitting Jamal Murray. You're probably sitting Bam. There's no incentive. However, there's great incentive for a lot of the players on the back end of the roster who could make $500,000 or $250,000 in the semifinals should they get there. I'm with you though. Like outside of the financial incentive, what is that extra thing that's going to have teams push to play 84 games maybe, but or 83, but you get extra points from them.
I just don't understand why wouldn't you just make the final game count as an extra regular season game? Like whoever wins the final game, you don't even penalize the loser. You don't even count that as a game if they lose.
Interesting.
And it would just be the
Interesting.
winner would get an extra half game. Like if they win, they get an extra half game basically.
So
I think or even if that was like the primary tiebreaker, if that became like a trump card tiebreaker, if you're tied in a conference, like just small things like that, I think are just kind of interesting ideas that would add some stakes. Because like, bro, is Jimmy Butler gonna play in the finals? If the Heat make that final
why
game,
would
why would he? And the thing is like if it's whatever, $500,000, $1 million to the winners,
yeah
the players might feel like they have to win that money for their role players, kind of like a pay it forward sort of thing.
yeah
So, well, there's also that. I also don't think any of those, like, I don't think any of the top dogs are going to make this finals. Probably.
Dude, it'll be so interesting to see how it goes. Like, will players get randomly super into it? Will their coach just be like, nah, you gotta chill, you gotta chill.
I think
Like,
it's gonna
because I
be.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's gonna be one of these teams that are like catching fire at the beginning of the season. Like, at the beginning of every season, there's a team because this is like the finals is December 9th. So you only got to be good for the first 2 months of the season. Like a lot of times, the best teams by NBA Finals time aren't the best teams at the first 2 months of the season. So I think it might be like,
Totally.
let's say the Wizards caught fire and they're like the second seed in the East just for the first 2 months, and then they like crash and burn, whatever. Like or the Jazz last year, like that could have been, and this would have been great experience to play like a high intensity game potentially. I don't know. There's interesting stuff there. I hope it's not like the top dog teams making the finals, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Have some fun, exciting, spicy basketball talk early on in the season. So,
Yeah,
get it going.
definitely. Definitely. It's gonna be fun. All right. Well, that's all we had to talk about for just us two. With that, we're gonna move forward. Please enjoy our first podcast with a guest and our first team preview for 2023, the New York Knicks. Mark, our first guest ever with the Knicks jersey on, our first guest ever to the Spin Hoops podcast. We're just gonna get into it. Knicks season. We're gonna talk about last season. Overall, Mark, let me get a little pulse. How are you feeling in general?
Feeling good. This is the best the vibes have been in many years, so I'm riding with that. The only thing bringing me down is, I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't see too much of a way forward at the moment. I think we're kind of our feet are in the sand with Randall and Tibbs a little bit, but other than that, things have never been better.
Love to hear it. Let's get this is gonna be a little tough podcast because we got two little Eastern Conference foes with me with Anthony and Mark, but the Celtics and Knicks. But we're gonna get right into it. Talk about last season. The Knicks, they finished 47-35. Lost in 6 games to the Heat in the second round after beating the Cavs in 5 games in the first round. Overall, pretty impressive season. I mean, almost hit the 50-game mark. Great seasons from guys like Brunson, Randall. Obviously, he was All NBA third team. And at the deadline, big acquisition, got Josh Hart for honestly nothing at all. It was basically a pick that became Chris Murray and whatever is left of Cam Reddish. So
I thought was a lot more at the time. Knicks fans were pretty emotional about that. It turns out we were wrong about that one.
yeah, I mean, Cam Reddish is what everyone thinks like is going to be this like problem solver to their team, and then he's a free agent the next offseason.
Yeah.
Like, so overall, I mean, pretty good last season. If in my opinion, going into that season, if I were a Knicks fan, I probably would have been very happy with that. Don't want to speak for you, Mark.
No, I'm really happy, and I think the record even sounds lower than what it felt like. And I think that was because we spent a third of the season, a fourth of the season, still trying the Fournier Rose experiment. And once that ended, once Tibbs kind of woke up and realized that Fournier Rose should not be part of this team, I don't know the exact numbers, but the record is night and day. I think we were roughly 500 before that, and things really took off after that. So I mean, I think that record is at the expense of some pretty poor personnel for third or a fourth of the season.
Absolutely.
Oh,
No, I
man,
definitely.
100%.
Yeah.
And we get our classic every single offseason, Evan Fournier turning into the best player of all times in international play
Yeah.
is always something nice to have on the side. But definitely, Mark, I'm with you just in terms of the overall vibe of the Knicks. Anytime the Knicks are a great team, it's so good for the league. So excited to watch that Heat Knicks series. They were so tough to kind of pick who's going to come out on top. So very, very excited for your team. Welcome to the near upper echelons of the Eastern Conference, baby.
Thank you. And I think I was maybe a little harsh initially because while I do think going from near upper echelon to like really upper echelon, I think we're a little far from that. I really can't see us slipping too much. Like we're locked in pretty good. There were no crazy moves this offseason. I think after we had that good year in 2021 where we, made to the playoffs and lost to the Hawks, I think our future success was contingent on a lot of ifs. And I don't really see it that way right now. But we'll check in next offseason and see if we can't find a way to screw it up.
No, definitely. And honestly, it was like a pretty great offseason, in my opinion. You get DiVincenzo, 4 years, 47 million. It is a contract that's escalating. So it starts at 11 mil, ends at 12.5, but that's not a huge, that's not really increasing that much. Not a huge deal. Probably the biggest move for, I think, Knicks fans might have been the Obi Toppin trade. In terms of just pulling at the heartstrings. You guys get 2 second rounders, the worst of 2 team second rounders in 27 and 28, I believe, from the Pacers. But after this trade, this does leave the Knicks at around 167 million in total salary. The tax line this year is 165 million. Really not spending that much in tax. Obviously, McBride, they pick up his team option. Josh Hart signs another 4-year extension after opting into his player option, kind of bringing his contract around the 5-year, 90 million range that Duncan Robinson also signed for a few years back. So overall, I thought it was a great offseason, frankly.
Yeah. And it we're working on stuff with Quickly too. I wouldn't quite say it was a great offseason for a couple reasons. The Obi going out, Dante coming in, like that's kind of the opposite of the problem with the team. Like we had very little depth at the 4 and a crowded, situation at the 1 and the 2. We got rid of our backup 4 and we brought in another point guard who, like, I see Dante's path to playing when someone goes down hurt, unless we're losing time for one of the guys I want in there. I'm really happy with the Josh Hart contract. I get that. And what I think my biggest knock is I feel like I was very comfortable with a Knicks offseason where we did something like this and just didn't make any big moves. But the more I think about it, like Jalen Brunson has shown championship point guard level play now, right? And he's on, you talked about Dante with the ascending contract. He's on a descending contract. And he's 26. He's not picking up that player option. We got 2 more years of him, and then he's going to get a huge bag. Like, while the finances are good, like now for me felt the time to do something big. I also can't really tell you what that is because there wasn't a lot on the free agency market. I feel like when Brunson becomes a free agent, we'll either re-sign him for a lot of money or we'll lose him, and then all of a sudden it gets complicated again. So that was my gripe. I don't think it was a horrible or great offseason either way, but I think Leon's done us pretty right for the last few years. And when you're getting a Josh Hart at the deadline, when you're re-signing your guys, you don't need to have a huge offseason.
Yeah, Anthony, I want to swing it over to you. I feel like this team, this Knicks team, honestly, kind of reminds me of I don't want to like stretch it too far, but the Celtics in terms of like when they subtracted Kyrie and Hayward, honestly, it just helped a lot of development elsewhere because more responsibility was put on the younger guys. Then obviously you trade Toppin and like you trade him away, which is a younger guy you would have liked to have given responsibility to. But I kind of see this being a little bit of like a lot of addition by development rather than addition by player moves because you guys have a lot of players already.
Yeah, the potential plus of losing Obi is spacing, and in an era of positionless basketball, you can get away with maybe a few 6'4" guys on the court at the same time. And, Dante playing next to RJ probably opens the court up a little more, stuff like that. And then also the other potential plus side is this could totally be a Cam Reddish situation. And whatever it was Tibbs had been seeing in practice, they see it the same thing in Indiana, and it doesn't work out. I think my big problem with it was Obi only showed promise when he was given minutes. Like it was only positive when he really got a run. And Randall has showed significant signs of fatigue by being the most heavily played minutes player of the league every year, and he's burnt and injured by every playoffs. And then the guy behind him only plays well when you give him minutes. So I just that seems like a blown opportunity for me. It's not like you can't say we gave Obi every shot and he just couldn't make the most of it, or give him one more year. We never gave him a run, and the few times we did, he looked great. But we'll see. Maybe the schematics work better with him off the court. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all fair. I did like a lot of what Obi was doing later on in the season. He was definitely like a really good temperature control for the team. That being said, I think where you guys stand is such a good position that so many NBA teams would kind of kill to have right now, especially with the descending contract in Jalen Brunson. I think the big thing for you guys is RJ Barrett, who's balling right now for Canada. How's his development looking? And then Jalen Brunson fitting in with Josh Hart, the Villanova boys playing well together. Emmanuel quickly, can he develop continuously? Quentin Grimes, how's that look? I think that's kind of your core. You got to figure out the Julius Randle situation. Don't hate your backups in your centers in Mitch Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, even though you do lose some size. This feels a lot like if I'm going to hop to Max's Celtics comparison. For me, it's always been Tatum, Jalen. Everything else is ancillary. So for y'all, it's nice, like you referred to, Jalen Brunson. I don't know if I have quite championship level like player at the moment. I could see Eastern Conference Finals pushing leader, best team, sneaky run. But other than that, dude, I feel like you guys are in a great spot. And to be in the position to think about like the role player situation says a lot about where your team is right now, because you're not like shooting for the stars, even though it'd be nice. Like we'd love a James Harden hypothetically. Or would we?
5 years ago, yeah. I hear that. About to quibble with the Jalen Brunson comment. I think the reason why I'm saying the championship point guard, I'm not saying he could be the guy, but you swap Jamal Murray with the Nugs handily beat the Heat, right? You swap Jamal with Jalen Brunson, I still think they win. And I don't think it's much of a drop off. I think Jalen Brunson was doing just about everything Jamal Murray was doing, just with no Jokic and boys around him. We'll see. Let's see if this year he can keep it up in the playoffs, and then maybe that title would be a little more apt. Championship level point guard.
Honestly, I'm very pro Jalen Brunson. Like, I don't know if he's like the best player on a championship team, but like that's only like 7-8 guys in the league right now. So I think Brunson's honestly, he might be a top 13, 14 guy, which it's pretty impressive for a guy who's like, he's not physically imposing. He's really such a tempo type player, which is exactly what the Knicks needed. I mean, Mark, I remember when you guys first got Brunson, I really liked the move in terms of it being able to set other people up, kind of the offensive orchestration that would come from that, because you can only run your offense through Randall for so long at some point. And that was where you guys were at a few years back.
That was fun to watch. No, I mean, I think Brunson is like an old school point guard, which I love. Like you see him right now, like who's lighting up the scoreboard for Team USA is Ant Edwards, but who's running that offense and being the maestro is Jalen Brunson right now. And that's what I love, is a guy who can like really run the offense and allow someone else to shine and facilitate that, and those two go well together. Obviously, it was Brunson kind of doing both roles in the playoffs, but against the Heat. But that's neither here nor there. I think, yeah, that's why I see him at like the same level Jamal. He can get his while the number one is lighting up the scoreboard. So yeah,
Look, I'm with both of you guys in terms of I think he's a fantastic player. I mean, for a guy to go ahead and play against Donovan Mitchell in the Western Conference playoffs,
cook
whoop his
him.
butt, and then bring him over to the Eastern Conference just so we can do it again.
Yeah.
That's impressive work to see. And and I always love a playoff riser, and that is what he does. Like he's a trusted ball handler player in all these games. So I mean, he's a fantastic point guard for sure.
Yeah, and like everyone always like, I know we're not the hot take section now, but everyone always loves to praise Donnie, and as they should. He's amazing. The eye test would definitely have him better than Jalen Brunson. How many times Jalen's got to beat his ass in the playoffs for us to? He did it 2 years in a row.
That's fair. Well, speaking of which, looking forward, Anthony, let's start with you. What do you kind of think the best case scenario for this Knicks team going into this next season is going to be?
Sure. Yeah. It's pretty specific. I'm with you, Mark, in terms of like scratching the top tier of the Eastern Conference is so difficult to do. Like it is much easier to go from like kind of like mid Eastern Conference to like contending to then get to that final level. I see this a bit like I think 50 wins makes the most sense for me on the high end. Maybe 52 max. And then I see a sort of like Atlanta Hawks 2021 style run to the Eastern Conference where if the chips fall in the right way, they could conceivably make the Eastern Conference. I think that's where their ceiling stops. And it's no shade to the Knicks and how good they're looking and what they're doing. They're a very fundamental team. I wouldn't want to have played them in the playoffs. Like I think they could have pushed to 7 last year. So that being said, there are just so many hurdles in the East right now, and who knows what's going to go on with Damian Lillard. So I think at the moment that's like a safe bet there. I would put my peak at.
Yeah,
for them.
No, and that makes sense. I mean, I was just thinking like what I was I guess trying to say earlier is like getting into that peak level. We would be the only team to do it without like a top 10 player in the league. Like it just that's why I think that's the wrong, and we kind of have the depth thing going on. But like as long as Celtics have Tatum, Giannis is on the Bucks, Joel, like that's Jimmy Butler. That's what kind of separates us big time from them. But yeah, no, I that makes sense.
I mean, I'll hop in. I think that their ceiling might be even higher than that, man. I mean, I think this is like a lot more of a legit, well-balanced team than that Hawks team was a few years back. I think the East is in a lot more of a disarray situation. Should this Dame trade happen, you're gonna have the Heat, who are obviously like amazing. Like I love that team if they have Dame. But they're gonna have to figure it out. The Celtics, obviously, Porzingis, new guys. No Marcus Smart. They're gonna probably start Derek White. Like that's gonna be new. The Bucks are kind of old. Like I think the Knicks really have a chance should everything go like perfectly right. Like this is best case scenario, but I think they have a chance to be like a legit top 3 seed in the East, winning like 52 to 54 games. I think 54 is probably on the high end.
Yeah.
But I could also see like a finals run. I mean, if RJ ascends to an all-star level player, is a finals run out of the question? Like I don't honestly, I wouldn't bet money on it. I wouldn't bet money on it, right? Like, but between Quickly and Barrett, if one of those two guys ascends, the ceiling just goes through the roof with this team compared to what it was before.
Totally. So I didn't do by I don't really know by like the record, but I was thinking best case is the second or third seed, and I wrote out some criteria of what I think needs to happen for that, and it's a lot of things going right for them to be a second or a third seed. You were saying RJ ascending to that. I think RJ just needs to cut out the game 6 in the playoffs against the Heat, those kinds of nights. He's balling for Canada. One of you guys saying he was balling for Canada. You must have only watched the first quarter because he scored 11 in the first quarter and then 4 over the next 3. Like I don't think people use the term inefficient with RJ. I think it's just inconsistent. When he plays his game well, and I'm sure we'll get to what that means specifically. When he plays his game well, he's very efficient. It's just those god awful nights where he's shooting 1 of 11 that drive down the shooting percentage and really really kills us. He needs to cut those games out, and if that means him going from a 21 point a game to 18 on better efficiency, I'm here for it. The other thing, I had a few more points. The minutes need to be distributed well. We have depth. We have to use it. Randall, Brunson, and RJ can't be top 10 minutes played per game. We need them in the playoffs, and they're going to be washed by that time. Grimes and Quickly got to come correct in the playoffs. If they looked the version of themselves we saw in the regular season, I think we beat the Heat. They just kind of disappeared at times for us. Grimes was there on the defense, but the shooting and the sporadic playmaking, which is very little, that we saw from him, it wasn't there, and it wasn't there for Quickly either. Randall, I think needs to diversify his game. Like, I don't want to just watch 100 isolation plays from him a year. I want to see stuff off ball. I want to see him flying around the court. iHeart needs to be back to his former self on the Clips. Saw at the end of the season. Let's do it for the whole year. And then the big thing is Dante, Sims, and Deuce McBride. They got to be the next men up. Someone's going to get hurt, and Mitchell Robinson is going to get hurt at some point. He'll miss at least 5 games, probably 10 to 15. Sims has got to be ready, and we have 20 point guards on the team. When one of them gets hurt, Dante DiVincenzo and Deuce need to be ready to play. So I think that all that happens. If all that happens, I think second or third seed is possible, but none of those things are crazy. It's just a lot needs to go right, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
So that would mean.
Oh, sorry, you can go.
I was just going to say that would mean that they would be a couple of teams to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. What would you have them doing in the playoffs? Where's your ceiling for that?
Bobby Mark said that we were going to the finals, so I wouldn't be crazy if I said that, but not the finals. Not the finals. I think we could play a good series in the conference finals. I think we could look what we are, which is a big time piece away from we're one guy away, I think, from really being a finals contender. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to do something that no team really does, which is just kind of win without a top 10 player. But like, I think Brunson and Randall could get close to the top 10 at their best, and hopefully RJ and Quickly can get closer too. And if that happens, then like you said, Max, then yeah, I think we could knock on the door of the finals.
I mean, I think it could happen. The thing is, it takes 2 to tango in every series, right? Like, if Giannis comes correct and is dropping 32 a game for a whole playoff series, like, you guys probably aren't going to win, right? So like things like that can happen. At some point, you would also you would need things to fall well, like with your own team, and also things to fall poorly with other teams, right? Yeah, but I think that's, if we're really talking about like pure best case, that's how I see it. But yeah. Moving on. We'll start with Anthony again. Worst case scenarios. Obviously, Eastern Conference kind of tight. A lot of good teams. Feel like the range could be pretty wide here.
Oh, yeah. Worst case scenario is not looking good. It's not. It is really not looking good, unfortunately, for you guys. Yeah, play in, exit. See ya, smell ya. 7, 8 seed. 8 seed, everything goes terribly. Some injury happens. Brunson's a great player in a 1-game playoff, but you never know. So I think that's 41, 42 wins. Just like the momentum doesn't carry over. It's like a repeat of 2 seasons ago, and then a poor season happens for some reason. They're 10 and 13 to start the year or something, and then instead of going up, they kind of regress. That's what I think is the worst case scenario.
We do have a hangover after every good year. That's not, yeah. It's a bit of a cycle, and I really want to break it this year.
No. Honestly, Anthony, I kind of feel similarly, and if I can add some stuff to that, I pretty much had the same prediction there. But like, Brunson missed 12, 13 games last year. If he just doubles that in missed games, that's really going to hurt the standings, and that's possible, right? Which is tough. I mean, he's a small point guard. To be honest, I don't know how good Dante DiVincenzo is. He was on the Warriors. We didn't have that much depth, so he played a lot and he shot the ball pretty well for certain stretches. But he's not consistent at all, which is unfortunate. Let's just say there's a regression from Randall, and then there's no progression from RJ and Quickly. Yeah, then you could find yourself in the play-in. I really don't think you guys would get knocked out in the plan if you guys were healthy. Like I think guys like Brunson are so like it's really conducive to that one game environment. But it's possible, right? So definitely, I kind of feel the same way here as Anthony, honestly.
Yeah, no, I roughly had the same with those takes. I think worst case scenario is we are fighting for that play-in spot. I think we could be, on the outside looking out if the worst case. And my criteria for what would take for that need to happen. And I wanted to ignore injuries because you could easily best case, worst case, just say, oh, if our best player gets injured or if some guy on our bench blossoms into a star, like beyond that, I think the realistic things that could go wrong is same old RJ. I have been impressed by his best nights, when he's dropping 30 and 40 bombs, but like that's gonna impress me a lot a lot less this year if the night before he had a 8-point stinker. If Mitch, the only one I said for injury was fair is if Mitch regresses to injury self because he has had problems. If Hart and Dante turn out to not be worth the contracts, I think like Hart, like Dante's such a low contract. He's gonna have to be pretty bad to not be worth. Would you say 12 mil a year, 10 mil a year?
Yeah, 12 million for 4 years.
Yeah, but like Hart, like a few years ago, we had Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, and who was the third? And Derrick Rose on super cheap contracts, and they outperformed. We re-signed them, and then they underperformed on big contracts. And while obviously those are veterans, Derrick Rose and Nerlens are a little beat up. I wouldn't expect that from Hart. Like all of a sudden he gets paid and loses that edge. That could screw us. I think a big thing that could go wrong is if we get punished for not having a true backup. And knowing Tibbs, if that starts happening, he's going to be like, all right, well, what if we don't have a backup for and just have Randall play 48 minutes a game? And then we have the grumpiest Julius Randle you have ever seen, which could bring you down to a 12 seed. And then the last one is even if things in theory are going well, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. I think the team, other than Randall, I think we have like great personnel in terms of like high morale, like high octane, like hardworking guys. Egos do exist. People get jealous of other people's roles and quickly might start feeling like he doesn't want to be a 6-man anymore. And, Hart might feel like he wants to get that start over Grimes. Like, I don't see this happening, but that's the kind of thing I think could really screw the morale of a team. Also, I'm just worried.
Totally fair.
I'm worried that the Villanova guys all go out to dinner without the rest of the team. In the group chat, like I don't want them to get clicky now. I know you guys were all boys in college, but we're not in college anymore. It's the NBA.
Honestly though, I don't really see Josh Hart getting that much worse. I will say that's like one thing. I would be very surprised if he didn't play up to close of like, I don't know. He might not be worth 20 mil a year when we look back on it in 5 years, which he's not getting paid. It's close to that. But like I just effort level wise, 3-and-D guy. He's not going to get that much worse defensively. He can play power forward. Like
but that's my thing. The fact that you're saying defense, and again, I'm not expecting this to happen. This is a worst case scenario, but just saying out loud that his best attributes are all his effort and like input, and he just had a contract season and he just got paid. Like that is sometimes what happens is people lose their motivation after a contract season. I'm sure it won't because he's, that's his livelihood. But
I mean, I know I mentioned the defense, but he did shoot 55% from 3 and 50% from the floor since he got to the Knicks. Like,
not gonna shoot 55% from 3.
I know he's not gonna do it again, but man, that's some crazy stuff. Like, if he shot 38% from 3, like that'd be a 17-point regression, and it'd still be very good.
If he shot 38% from 3, I think that would be his best season ever 3-point shooting. Wait, I'm looking at it right now. No, I just lied. His career 3-point shooting percentage is 35%, so just about average. A couple years, his rookie year, he shot 39%, but since then he's sat at 34 to 37. So okay, so we could do 37.
Yeah,
we're quibbling.
Also, fun fact: last year he made 2/3 of his corner threes on the Knicks, that's insane. Like that's probably not going to happen again, but that is insane. moving on.
Yeah.
Now, for our true predictions, we ran through best case scenarios, worst case scenarios. Anthony, we'll start with you again. What are your predictions? Any questions you have about the Knicks this season?
Okay. Predictions. How do the Knicks do? Let's go with, I really think that they finish around the same win total. And I don't think win total is necessarily indicative of quality of team, as we saw last year with the Heat. And I think they make it again to the second round. That's kind of how I see it, or at least they're a competing second round team. If they get unlucky and they play a really, really good first round team, they're another 4-5 matchup or something that happens. So let's go second round and 48 wins. And some really good outputs from Jalen Brunson. He becomes the best guy on the team, undeniably. Gets his first All-Star nod.
Ooh,
Needs that nod. Got snubbed.
definitely.
Yeah.
Could you see any trades? Could you see? This is, I guess, a question for both of you guys. Could you guys see any trades happening? So I have this down really quick. Knicks basically have from 2024 to 2027 protected Detroit first. If one of them convey, the rest become void. Same with Washington and Dallas for the next 2-3 years. So there are first round picks that are heavily protected, but first round picks coming in, and a lot of second round picks coming in compared to the second round picks going out. I kind of think there's assets to make an upgrade. And unfortunately, maybe this becomes a Julius Randle salary dump should things go south. But should things go south. But like even with that, you guys would still have a ton of assets left. So I just want to put that out there.
Let me just finish my part of the prediction because I want to hear what Mark has to say. I guess no. Honestly, I don't really think any big trades happen. We'll see what happens in the first few months. We'll see how the big in-season tournament goes. Maybe, they shock the world or something happens and, Dame's name gets reshuffled around. I don't really know who. And I think the Knicks are really trying to chill with the, let's go for a big name kind of move. They like where they're going. I'm with you. The only thing would be okay, can we get rid of Randall for some great value in return? Other than that, I don't really see many trades. I think the Knicks kind of remain a quiet, let's rebrand ourselves here kind of team. That's my take.
I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna answer that question and then give the prediction. The trades, I think. So I see your guys' logic through Randall, but you guys are looking at it through your eyes, not the Knicks front office. They do not see Randall as a player they will ever salary dump. They see production and they see 20, 24 points a game, a whole bunch of assists. They see an all-star. It's not happening. They would love to upgrade, if somehow the world perception of Randall changes and Randall for a zillion picks for Giannis, for Zion, that's what they would do. But they're not salary dumping him unless they get a tampering commitment in an offseason from an elite power forward. I think the guys most likely to be traded quickly are Jay and Grimes. They're not trading Randall, like I said, not trading Hart, who they just signed, Dante, who they just brought in, and Brunson, who they've inked to a long-term deal. I think the only trade that I actually think of those three that really, unless they want to consolidate and do Quickly and Grimes or Quickly and RJ, some combination, two of the three for a top player, but I don't know what that would be. A trade that I think they are eyeing, and it's actually, you guys know I'm a big RJ stan. It's the only trade I think I would ever do for RJ because I don't want to, cash in low. I think they want McCall Bridges. I think they want to double down on the chemistry. And to me, that I know you're bullish on the Nets, Max. I think they're going to be atrocious this year. And I think Bridges might be looking around like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? Or what was I traded into? And I think they might think he is a perfect substitution for RJ because he plays off ball, shoots three, plays defense. He's only a few years. He's in the same timeline as Jalen and Julius. I think that's what they would want to do. And I wouldn't hate that if it was RJ and a pick or two for Mr. Bridges.
Just want to hop in before you give your full prediction. I will say the Nets, they rejected a 4 first-round pick offer from an anonymous team. It was probably either the Warriors or the Grizzlies at the last deadline, like when he went from the Suns to the Nets. And I think his value must only be going up. I mean, he's still young. amazing defender. Since he got to the Nets, he's putting up 20 plus a game. I love the fit though. I wouldn't even be against just like, here's a bunch of picks and RJ, like screw it. If the RJ stuff doesn't progress like we want it to progress.
Sure.
But yeah, anyways.
I mean, you're not taking into account that he might run to China and start running his mouth about the GM of the Nets. So if that happens, that might shave a pick off the asking price.
Yeah, maybe.
But probably not what he would do. Yeah, my prediction for the season is just about what you had, Anthony. For playoffs, I think that was the same. I think, if they're 4 seed or four or fifth seed, I think they're making it to the next round or higher, making it to the next round. If they get unlucky and they're 6th or 7th and got a battle of top team, I think it could be a great first round, but they still probably lose to the Celtics or Bucks. So second round or tough first round. In terms of record, I'm going back and forth because on one end, like I said, we're not experimenting with Fournier and Rose for half the season, but like the East, as chaotic as it is, there's just so much talent out there, and there are so many teams that could do better. I think that things went really well for the Knicks, and I think we got a lot of breaks, i.e. Hart coming in and shooting 55% from 3. Like that, love Hart, and maybe he has found a 3-point rhythm with us, but he's not going to do that. I think we'll be around 4. I think we'll be around 5-6 seed. What did we win? 47 games last year? I think about 45. And we could be a better team winning 45 games versus 47. We were lucky with the injury bug last year, or a lack thereof. I think a lot of things went right. So I think we'll be a better team, but we'll have to deal with a little more adversity just by the NBA gods torturing us. And then we'll be a few wins shy of what we were last year.
If you were a Knicks fan, Mark as a Knicks fan, should the Knicks be happy with 45 win season coming after 47 win season?
I'm not a Knicks fan, so I'm a pass to you, Mark.
This is the Max Kellerman kind of just looking for a reason to get us upset. Of course, we were awful for so long. If you tell me Tom Thibodeau's first 4 years are 3 out of 4 years making the playoffs, and we're having meaningful games in the first and second round, yeah, I don't care if we're a few seats lower than last year. Just like, did LeBron care when they were the 4th seed and then mowed down the Raptors? It doesn't matter. If we make the playoffs and we're healthy and we're in a good position to compete, I don't really care where we are in the playoffs, as long as we're not facing 1 or 2 seed, I think.
Should you guys have traded for Mitchell?
No.
Any regret there at all?
No, 0. Because if there was any part of us that were missed out on that, 1, haven't seen it yet because Donovan Mitchell was not as good as the guy we got for much cheaper in the playoffs head to head. And 2, he's going to be a free agent in a few years. He wants to be in New York. Like, I've never seen a man wear a Mets jersey that much who does not want to be in New York. He wants to come to the Big Apple. Doesn't want to come to Brooklyn. He wants to be a Knick. And like, we could, if we want to just switch Brunson, if we want to not re-sign Brunson in a couple of years and get Donovan Mitchell, then that was the finesse of a century, of maybe the decade rather.
Fair. Personally, I guess I didn't give a prediction yet.
Yeah.
I think you guys will probably play better than expected. I'm actually kind of thinking it's going to be 48, 49 win team. I think the NBA is really trending towards like these deep teams with role players overperforming. Playoffs in particular, but also I think in the regular season that is a big deal. And I think like you can get away with shallower benches, but in general it's not super sustainable. This Knicks team has a super deep bench, right? So and I'm really a Brunson believer. I think that's really what this comes down to. I'm a big believer in Brunson. And I just think like percentage chance wise, there's going to be some sort of progression between Quickly, RJ, etc. Like there'll be some sort of progression. Those guys are too talented. Could things go completely sideways? Like, yeah, but I don't know. I just don't think Randall has enough like pull in the locker room or even on the court to mess things up. Like they're never going to run the offense through him, which is fine. Like it's not, he's going to put up 20, like he put up 25 a game last year. I don't think he'll put up 25 a game again, to be honest. That's not where I see Julius Randle at this year. But I think Brunson, I don't know. I think Brunson's a lot closer to being a top 10 player than like we might think.
Yeah. No. I also think that hopefully Randall Tibbs. It did seem like in the playoffs Tibbs was wary of Randall, whereas he's typically obsessed with him. Maybe that's a sign of things to come.
Absolutely. Okay, moving forward, I do have a few more questions. So Emmanuel quickly, he did not re-sign his rookie scale extension. So he's gonna go into the offseason next year as an unrestricted free agent, or sorry, as a restricted free agent. Do you think there's any like drama there? Do you think that could
No,
I don't think so either, but
I think a deal gets done.
yeah. Okay.
I think he's gonna I think he's probably he knows he has a bad taste in his mouth after the playoffs, and he's probably thinking, yeah, let me hold out for October, November to remind them what I can do, and then we can start talking contract. I think he's gonna want close to what RJ got. And if we could do somewhere, okay, what'd you say Hart was? Hart was 5 for 90.
Yeah, 5 for 90. So he can only get 4 years though.
Yeah. I'm just thinking AAV. Pretend that I don't know how to do math. What's 5 for 90? That's
16. Oh, okay.
If we could do, you know, 4 for just about 100 or under, I think that would be an amazing deal. And if he's balling out,
Damn, boy.
That's not
a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
All right,
don't spend it too quickly, Emmanuel.
That's when I looked up his contract. That's what most of the experts were saying expect him to get. And I'm actually not going to take that from the guy who just gave Jaylen Brown the largest contract in NBA history. Quickly.
Hey. We're not talking JB, but if you want to talk JB, it's always the most random guy that gets the new highest contract in NBA history. It happened to Mike Conley.
The NBA obviously trends towards higher and higher contracts. I think 4 for 20, 4 years, 23 to 25 a year. I think that'd be what he's looking for, and I would give in to that if it means losing him to free agency.
I think he kind of has like a good amount of leverage because there's a lot of players of his type between guys like on his own team, like RJ, guys on other teams like Poole, Bain. All those guys got 120 mil a year, or 120 mil for 4 years. Sorry. So that's almost like closer to 27, 28 mil. I think if you guys can get him for like 23 mil, probably a good deal given the market itself. Yeah. If you can front load it, even better. We'll see. I could see him hitting, like, if things go haywire. I mean, he shot like 20% from 3 in the playoff series against the Heat. Like, if things go haywire again, maybe you're also not tripping too hard about him hitting free agency, and maybe like the actual market gets to like come into play, right? Because
I think quickly, I would trip about quickly hitting the free agency unless his numbers are absolutely atrocious. Quickly has an X factor that doesn't show up on the traditional stat sheet, which is every single player on our team, and I mean literally every single player plays substantially better when he's on the court. He is like, when Quickly's on the court, it facilitates offense. His defense is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league. He is on his way to becoming a lockdown defender at guard. He's just skinny, so people just imagine him getting run through. He doesn't do that, and he keeps him. He stays in front of his man. I think really good things happen when Quick's on the court. If he can just find a rhythm scoring wise, I would think that things get a lot better.
I hope he doesn't get run through on defense. I'll tell you that right now. I agree with you there, Mark.
Hey, yo. Cool. So I think we ran through all the kind of predictions. Is there any other questions you guys have about the upcoming season you guys want to throw out there?
Let's see. Mark, how are you feeling about Tibbs?
I'm not at the level of pulling my hair out, screaming fire Tibbs as I was before. I think the ceiling is low for Tibbs. I think the floor is high. I forget one of us was saying it well that Tibbs is he's a great guy to build a team. He builds culture. He installs values of defense and hustle on the team. When it comes to nitty gritty personnel and schematics, I think he's very limited. And we saw him outmaneuver JB Bickerstaff. And that's you outcoach a guy, you win the chess game against a guy who brought their team to the 5 seed. You should feel good about that. But then he got schooled by Spoelstra. And I don't care that the Heat went to the finals. I don't care that they beat a very good Celtics team. That Heat was a very flawed roster. And there were guys who we had never seen perform at a high level who were dominating against us. That is embarrassing how bad he got beat by Spoelstra. And I think that Tibbs's problem is that he is good at recognizing talent. He is awful in knowing what to do with it. So he's able to see Brunson, Randall, and RJ are the players with highest production upside on our team. Great, I saw that too. When it comes to how to use them, I don't think he could use Randall any worse than he does. I don't think he uses RJ well at all. So that's what really frustrates me. I think we'll be fine with Thibodeau. We'll be a good team. Will we be able to win the chess matches against top level coaches? No. Will we be really maximizing our players? No. And that's why I think there's a great chance that Obi flourishes in Pacers, because I don't think Tibbs really ever had a sit down and said, what's the best way to use Obi? And if he did, he threw those notes out the window immediately. So he's good enough to keep doing what we're doing. He's not good enough to do any better.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Do you think there's an expiration date? Do you think
I think his contract's up after this year, right? It's either this year or next. I mean, Leon loves him. I think they really like Tibbs. And you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're rooting for something bad to happen in your coach's contract year, so they don't re-sign him. But I would hope they move on for him and say, Tibbs, thank you for a fantastic 4 years. He really, it should not be overlooked what he did, that you guys were cracking jokes about the Knicks 4 years ago. And now we're debating, could they make the 3rd seed? Like, Tibbs really did turn around this team's culture, turn around the team's reputation, despite all of his flaws and despite at times flawed personnel. But I think if you're being smart, I think we're not settling at that. And we want to build a championship team. Thank you for your work, Tibbs. You will get a documentary about you. It's time to look for, a Nick Nurse caliber coach, or maybe internally promote Johnny Bryant.
Kind of like a Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr situation.
Yeah. That's exactly what we have.
Moving on then, some hot takes. Anthony, we'll start with you again. Any hot takes you have on this coming season? Yeah, anything like that.
I don't know if this is a hot take. Earlier we were talking about Josh Hart. I'm gonna say it again. I said this the second they traded for him in the regular season. The Knicks kind of figured out what to do to be a smart team. He's the barometer of the team. I don't know if that's really a hot take or not, but I kind of feel like how he's playing is a good indicator of how the Knicks are doing overall. When he's controlling everything, or like controlling the elements of the game where he's in control, I feel very confident in your squad, Mark. That's why I'm just so high. I'm like, hey, the shooting splits, maybe they go back down. I never even thought of him or valued him as a shooter in the first place. It's those things he does where he's getting 10 boards a night for no reason. It's a 6'5" small forward. I think high IQ guy. I'm with you. Like, he does not strike me as the type of player to like downgrade the intensity and the effort and those high IQ plays that make him so specifically good. He scares the crap out of me every time we play against him. So I don't even know if that's too hot of a take, but my take is like, he kind of gives me like Derek White vibes of the Celtics. Like, he could be the second most impactful player on the Knicks in any given series. And That's my take.
Josh Hart is a bellwether. I don't mind that. No, I don't. I think that's a good take. Yeah, I know. I didn't think of him a shooter either way, so that was definitely a bonus. But yeah, what was USA coach Steve Kerr saying the other day that most players fight for 50-50 balls and Hart wins 20-80 balls, you know? And that hustle is we'll miss Obi, but hopefully Hart can keep that level of like hustle that Obi brought. Good take.
On the Obi point, I'll hop in with my hot take. I think Obi Toppin might be better than Julius Randle within the next 2 years. This is not to hate on Randle. I just think they're super similar. Yeah, this is a fiery take. I think they're extremely similar profile players. I think Toppin's also in a situation in Indiana where has a really good chance to flourish. He's going to get an opportunity. He's playing next to Halliburton, etc. But if we're just looking at player profiles, I think this is really fascinating. As a starter for the Knicks throughout his career, Toppin scored 21, 6, and 3. And that's a pretty similar stat line to Randle during his time starting. It's 21, 7, and 3 per 36 minutes during his time on the Knicks, which is pretty close to what Randle has averaged during his time on the Knicks. And they shoot really similarly from 3. Really similar assist percentages and a really similar defensive box plus minus. Per 36 minutes, they averaged the same amount of attempts from 3 last season. And that's a lot of them. Per 36 minutes, they both shoot around 9 threes a game. I think also that Randle would have to regress for this to happen. The thing is Randle's peak. As much as I'm not a Randle guy, he was All-NBA third team last year. He was All-NBA second team 2 years before that. Do I see Obi Toppin being an All-NBA guy ever? Probably not, to be honest. So there is that. But I do think Randle regression plus Toppin potential could really – I just think they're really similar players, and it's really fascinating because I think Toppin just in a bigger role is naturally going to shine a lot. And I was pretty sad with the trade, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was nodding a lot to that, but I actually despise that take. No, I think I think I get where you're going, and I see the points you're making. One, I hate to nitpick. One caveat: the numbers you brought up, when he was starting. It's important to note that the chunk of that was not this last season, the season before. At the end, when we were known to have a very hard schedule at the beginning, easy schedule at the end, and that's when we were selling and when Randle wasn't playing. So those numbers to me indicate like he had promise and deserved more playing time, not really a comparison to Randle. I could refute it, but my next point is actually Randle based, and it's in the exact opposite direction. So do you mind if I refute it that way?
Yeah.
So Max and others, Anthony, I don't know if you saw, they lit me up in the group chat for this earlier this week. But I'm sticking to my guns, and I've refined the take a little bit, so hopefully you guys can get on board with it. If you believe in the NBA multiverse, where there are many infinite parallel NBA universes, an alternate universe where Randle is drafted to Nick Nurse, Kerr, Spoelstra, Pop, a good coach who maximizes abilities, he would be in the MVP convo almost every year in his prime. And in that alternate universe where he also doesn't have an attitude, he wins at least one MVP or more. I would like to defend this take. If
that is hot. That is hot.
And I would like to defend.
Dude, what?
I don't come without rationale.
All right. Good luck, sir.
Basically, I think Tibbs has enabled Randle to play not only the ugliest brand of basketball you have ever seen in your life, but the kind of basketball that least, accentuates his best attributes. Randle is 6'10", 250 pounds, and is an absolute freight train. He is very fast for his size. He is incredibly strong. I know that, Mitchell Robinson rightfully got the credit for the bullying he did to Mobley and Allen. Randle was doing it too. Randle was throwing around the court like a rag doll. He's actually a fantastic defender when he tries. He rarely does, which is a problem, but he's a fantastic defender when he tries. He can guard twos decently well at the perimeter. You can't push him around in the paint, and he's a very good rim protector. If I think a coach like Nick Nurse, Spoelstra Pop, or me were to coach Randall, it would be a lot of cutting off the ball where he would be, barreling towards the paint. It would be slashing. It would be focus on defense and turn him into a two-way player. And there would be a little bit of ISO and playmaking and, doing Tibbs uses him like James Harden or Kyrie Irving. And he's spinning into double teams, and Randall is an athletic freak that we are using like James Harden. I think we forget about his intangibles and we forget about his physicality on the court. And as spicy as you guys found that take was, I've outlined why I think he's being used incorrectly. He was 8th in MVP voting 2 years ago, and that's when he was used poorly. I also think the fact that Tibbs used him at 34 minutes, 35 minutes a game, I want to see Randall at 30 minutes a game, just full speed ahead, Obi Toppin style, not to compare him after that last take. That's actually showing how they're different. Just fully embracing like the hustle mentality. And I think you would see a ridiculous style of play that you don't normally see from him. I also think something that I think really like highlights my my thesis is Randall does this thing. The Knicks are a heavy ISO team, yes, but at times when we move the rock well and we're guys are passing up good looks for great looks, it'll eventually find its way to a wide open Randall, and he'll catch, he'll pump, he'll jab, he'll take a step back when the defender gets there, and then he'll throw up a brick from 5 feet beyond the 3-point line when he had a wide open look right at the perimeter. That is a habit that he was allowed to develop over the last 4 years in probably even New Orleans and LA. Steve Kerr would not let that slide, and that kind of like boneheaded playmaking is definitely something that is a problem with him. I think it's a bigger problem with the coaches that have enabled him. This isn't pickup. This isn't at, Rutgers Park in New York. Randall has developed poor habits over the years and has still come close to the MVP once, and he's been All-NBA twice. If he really was utilized well and he dropped the attitude, totally he's an MVP player.
Anthony?
Wow, okay. In an alternate universe, I'm a Knicks fan. I like to put ice cream on the top of my head, and instead of walking from place to place, I go skipping. In the same universe, Julius Randle is the MVP of the NBA. Isaiah Thomas finished 5th in MVP voting back 2016, 2017. I can't really think of an NBA MVP who was not able to overcome the circumstances of the team that he was on in order to uplift it to that kind of way. I feel like you're giving a lot of deference to the inability of his coaches to help him kind of get over the bad habits that he has. Yeah. I don't really I don't know, man. I just don't know about this take.
I get that in an alternate universe anything can happen, but I'm not describing anything that's crazy. The attitude would be, yes,
you are
changing his personality. If he gets drafted to a good coach, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I will say you kind of mentioned his cutting and stuff off ball.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen Randall really do that, frankly, in an efficient manner. I also don't think off-ball best players on a certain team really exist outside of Steph. Like, a lot of guys don't really play out. Even, like, Paul George plays a lot of on-ball. Kawhi plays a lot of on-ball. Like, these are guys who should be cutting, but if you're the best guy on the team, you're going to have the rock in your hands.
Paul George and Jimmy Butler can play well off-ball. It's not how they're used most. But yeah, I've seen it happen a few, sparingly with Randall, I'll admit. But it's deadly when he does it. He's also there's no pick and roll action. Like, you guys, can you not hear my point that a 6'10" guy with those intangibles probably shouldn't be ISO, dribble, step back, 3-pointer, 20 points a game? Like, you not see how that's poor utilization of his talents?
I understand, but also there's a reason why every stop of his career, he's always been a power forward and not a center. And I think if he had ever made that transition to a solo big in the front court, that really could have helped him. That's what I think could have popped the ceiling. And that's kind of one of the reasons, as much as I don't think Sabonis is that good, Sabonis is able to play a solo front court role, which Randall hasn't been able to do in a winning fashion yet. Had that been developed, I think that really could have boosted the ceiling potentially. And
I think Sabonis is an example. Sabonis is used perfectly to his ability,
I agree.
and you think I won't get into Sabonis versus Randall. You can't argue they've both been MVPs the same amount of times. All NBA, they're very similar, and when they're head to head, it's them two going at each other, and they're roughly as good. And I'm saying that Randall's playing ISO ball. Like it's just I think it is. I can't think of someone who was used to their talents worse than Julius Randle, and he's still an All NBA player.
I agree. And I think, to be honest, I totally agree with that point. I think if Randall was almost used from the beginning of his career, like trying to create a Sabonis type player, he would just be Sabonis, but way better. To be honest, I think they have similar passing vision. I don't think Randall is a spectacular passer, but I don't think Sabonis is either. Sabonis is put in a lot of really good situations to get assists rather than having insane court vision, which I think Randall could easily do that as well. Should his development have gone better? I think it's a little bit of a stretch with like some of the stuff. I just don't think he is super mobile laterally, defensively, which really hurts is like peak defensive potential. But I understand your point though. Like the physical tools plus the shooting percentages, etc. There should be almost a better player here than what we actually see.
I think there aren't many players who like if Randall's focus was two-way player, I think he'd be in consideration for among top 10 power forward, defensive power forwards in the league. He has the physical abilities. And when you see him turn it on, which it blows my mind how rarely he does, like it's a real freak of nature. Randall sees himself as someone like LeBron, who LeBron turns off the defense because he's like, my team needs me to get 28 points. I got to choose my energy. And I'm like, Randall, you got it the other way around, man. Like we have scorers on this team. We need you to do the dirty work. And if you did the dirty work along with some ISO scoring, you'd still score 20 points a game, but he's also being a beast down low, and he's attacking the rim. He's getting other guys open. That's my hot take. You boys weren't feeling it, but this is for the millions of fans we got to weigh in.
Mark, what Julius Randle finished 8th 2 years ago in MVP vote? Around there?
2021 year, yeah.
3 years ago.
And he was
who finished after. Who finished 9th in MVP voting?
You want me to look it up, or did you just pull it up? You had
it? Just random guess. Like, let's see.
Nice.
Lonzo Ball.
It's Derrick Rose, dude. So
that's not a great look for the take.
I mean, look, the best way where I think your take can be tested is Tibbs kind of signs off his coach, and we get a new coach, and we see what happens.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I'm also with you in terms of his potential to be a way better player, given his frame and his kind of IQ. I do think he has IQ. Because he has that mold for it. Be crazy for him to be like a hyper, even better offensive version, worse defensively of Draymond Green, kind of setting the tone as an engine. I could also see him as like a Sabonis level, like if he can get that passing up. I mean, he could be scary for sure. Is that going to happen? Same thing I always think about is,
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm just saying the alternate universe in which that does happen, it's only a couple minor differences. It's him being coached right, which many players are. Like Sabonis was properly utilized and he's flourishing because of it, but like, I mean, if Steph Curry was drafted to Tom Thibodeau, he'd be a post-up center. Like that's the problem with Thibodeau. And also I do think that the happenstances were inconvenient for Randall because he was drafted to a Lakers team that was in shambles and
tore his
ACL. And then when he went to the Pelicans, it was looking for that contract that he got with the Knicks. So it wasn't, that Pelicans team was also trash. So it wasn't like a lot of like winning. It was like, I was like, I'm trying to go get my contract. So I think the attitude thing, I will meet you, is the part that I think is really far-fetched because he has tried to work on his attitude every single year. And it does make a big difference year to year. The 2 All-NBA years were when he seemed to be in a good place mentally, and the 2 horrible years were the years he wasn't. But like, even if you're making a conscious effort to work on your attitude and your disposition, and you're sulking in wins and you're jogging back on defense in the playoffs, the attitude is something that like maybe you'll be able to mitigate but never eliminate. So that I will concede is that our alternate universe is fairyland because it's who he is. But I do think he his potential is so much higher in terms of utilization. And I think maybe the two are related. That maybe if Tibbs were to say, yeah, Randall, we want you doing more, cutting off ball. We want you doing a lot more pick and roll, anchor on defense. He might say no. So that could be behind the scenes. I don't really see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on the ceiling of alternate reality Julius Randle. But to be honest, I don't have any too like hot of a take. Like I thought Brunson is by far the best player on the Knicks. I don't think Randle should be considered the best player on the Knicks, but I don't think that's that hot of a take. So I don't. Yeah,
I got a hot take.
Hit us with some hot takes.
So on Twitter, you see Brunson is compared to a few players often. It's almost always Fox, Halliburton, and Trey, and then Garland and Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Trey, I think Brunson right now is better than all of them. Halliburton, I like. If you told me 2 years, Halliburton gets some playoff experience and goes absolutely ballistic, fine. Like totally believe it. I just like we haven't seen him in the playoffs yet, so I can't judge it. Garland, I just saw them head to head, and I saw what happened. Fox, I think Fox is amazing, but like I don't think Fox did what Brunson nearly did in the playoffs, where the defense's entire mission was stopping him, and he had Eric Spoelstra doing everything in his power to lock him up, and still nothing could have been done. I think Fox is a hair below Brunson, but I'm taking Brunson.
I think Brunson's better than Trey. I think Fox might be better than Brunson, to be honest. I mean, Fox, they pushed us to 7, and I will push back. I think we really did focus on Fox because we locked some bonus up with Looney. So that was just like one-on-one matchup done. And then the only other guy we had to focus on was Fox. And I'm just like scarred from like the elimination games where he could not miss for certain stretches. It felt like he was one of those guys where it just felt like every shot he was taking was going in. But I think Brunson might be better than Trey, man. I really think Trey can be a liability on defense, which I don't feel is really the case with Brunson or Fox. But
yeah. Brunson is as good of a defender as you could want for that, for his physique. That's as good as you're going to get. So I'm not tripping about that. Yeah.
Mark, I think I'm with you, and maybe this is a tepid take. I would bet on Brunson as the most consistent player out of these guys for sure. Like, who do I want over the course of something? Very steady hand kind of guy. Is his peak better than like you said, Tyrese Halliburton? Maybe not necessarily, or De'Aaron Fox. I think they have like some pretty super stuff that Brunson, I don't know if he'll quite ever get there, but it sort of like reminds me of Chris Paul, James Harden, 2018 Rockets. Who was better? James Harden. Who was more valuable to that team when it mattered? Chris Paul. And I kind of see Brunson like that.
Yeah. And super nitpicky, but I just looked up Fox during the playoff run versus Brunson. And although their raw stats are very similar, Brunson was really efficient and Fox's EFG was like 488. So while I, what Fox can do, his intangibles are ridiculous. And I think he probably punishes the defense more. It does seem like that was a smart move by the Warriors, like if he's going to chuck.
Yeah. I mean, he had to shoot because that is the thing about the Kings. They only really have like Sabonis and Fox as like true offensive like shot creators. So that is also like a different burden when Brunson's more of like the orchestrator. He's like your turn to shoot. Fox is a little bit like, okay, it's me and Sabonis. So it's like different burdens almost offensively and defensively.
Exactly. Speaking of the Warriors, I have a Warriors Knicks hot take here.
It is for it.
I think you switch Poole for RJ in the last playoffs, and of course, use them well. I think Warriors could beat the Lakers and could have even gone further. I think Poole was like exactly what you didn't need. You know, it was excess. Like, we don't need someone dancing on the 3-point line, chucking up crazy shots when we got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I'm sure you guys could have loved the guy who barrels to the rim and can hit the three when the spacing is right, which it would have been on the Warriors. I think that piece would have fit really, really well. I guess that's not too hot of a take.
I think it's a great take. It's what Warriors wanted Kuminga. The Warriors fans wanted Kuminga to be all season. Kuminga's just like a little young, right? So like yeah, it's tough to expect him to be like an RJ Barrett level player like last season. But I think had Kuminga been a player of that caliber, if RJ was on the team instead of Poole, really could have increased our ceiling. But like on the other hand, though, like 2 years ago, I will say I do think we needed Poole 2 years ago to win the chip.
Poole was the man 2 years ago.
Yeah, where he was amazing then. Last year was just like that bad. Like we'll agree there. Like,
A little bit of money got to his head. But yeah, I mean, RJ wouldn't even need to score a single basket on the Warriors team to be helpful, because what he would do, he whether or not he's hitting him or not, when he's in the pick and roll, he attracts a lot of attention and often 2 to 3 defenders, obviously the 2 pick and roll defenders, and then someone else comes. If Steph Curry and Klay are on the perimeter, you make one pass and then walk to the bench and sit down, they're going to swing it around until they find the open man. So I think that would have been nice to watch.
Totally fair.
good take. Any other hot takes?
Yeah, what else you got?
If Grimes was 6'6", he'd win a Defensive Player of the Year. 6'4". You give him 2 inches. You give him 2 inches. All Jimmy Butler could do on him was shoot over him. You know, like that was his workaround for Grimes, and it worked because Jimmy's like 6'7", 6'8", and Grimes is generously 6'4". You put him at 6'6", and then he's not a. And I'm not talking this year. I'm talking a few years down the road. But he has that potential. It's just like his best suit would be guarding elite power forwards, elite 3s and 4s. He's too short.
Dude, Quentin Grimes is amazing. Like his defense, on-ball defense is incredible. And I think, I don't know, it's tough for shorter players to just win deploy. That's a trend that's been changing a bit recently. But it's interesting. Give him 2 inches. I'm gonna call another timeout on that. But besides that, I think that's a solid.
You were gonna say something.
I gotta be careful on this pod. But otherwise, I think that's a solid take, and I could definitely see some first team or second team all defense.
He'll make some first teams. Make some first teams.
Good take.
I got one more, which is if Quickly can shoot 30%, Quickly can shoot 40% from 3. Watch out for 40, 50, 90. He already has the 90, well within his wheelhouse. I think there was 1 year he was among the highest free throw shooters in the league. And I think he hasn't really come close to 50 for field goal percentage, but that's also because the threes have been kind of low. If he's really chopping it from 3, I think he won't need to do too much in the mid range other than the floater, which is one of the best in the league. So I think 40, 50, 90, if he can find out the 3, I think that is possible.
I mean, I think it's possible too. Half of his shots right now are coming from the 3-point line. So yeah, if he does just shoot a lot better from the 3, that's going to help out the whole situation. If that happens though, sound the alarm. We have to start rethinking the priorities. Like if Quickly just shooting 40, 50, 90 is going to be a 20-point per game guy. So there would need to be almost like a reshuffling of priorities on the Knicks if that happened. It's within reach though.
Yeah, because he like I said, he's got the 90. And when you look at that 3-point shot, it's like the same with Grimes, where Grimes, I think his best was 38%. And I'm like, that's just adjusting to the league. You're gonna be hitting higher than that at some point. I think Quickly's a bit of a chucker where Grimes is catch and shoot, so that's the problem there. But we'll see.
I think the 50 part is gonna be that's the one thing. Even if things went perfectly, getting to 50% from the floor, we don't really see good short guys outside of Steph really do that.
Because if he listens to my advice, it's only gonna be 3s and floaters, nothing else. I don't want to see him at the rim. You have no business at the rim. Those long ass arms.
Any other hot takes?
That's about all I got.
Well,
some good takes.
Yeah, some good takes. Anthony, I'll swing it over to you for the little history time, a little history program.
Well, yeah, I mean, so one of the things why we care so much about having different people on is not only your perspective is going to be so much more connected to the Knicks franchise, right?
Yeah.
Why you are a basketball fan, why any of us are fans of our respective teams are so often connected with some core fond memories of those early times with our respective franchises. Mark, what are the moments you kind of remember that made you become the Knicks fan you are today? What are some notable times and experiences?
Yeah, I was a late bloomer with the Knicks. I was not yet a Knicks fan when Linsanity happened. I caught a few of those games on TV, and it was awesome. It was so foreign to me that I wasn't able to like truly enjoy it. And also, I think Linsanity was like 2011, and I
It
was
was like 2012, 13. Yeah. Played Kobe, 38.
Yeah, because I was still locked in on the Yankees at that point, and that was right after they won the World Series in 2009, and they threatened for the next 2 years. So I didn't feel like I had the bandwidth, but what really the year I really became like obsessed was 2012, 2013. Melo Anthony year, we lost to the Pacers in the second round. I still have nightmares about that Roy Hibbert block on Carmelo. But I think like the thing that was really really fun about that team is we were so deep in a way that you don't see it again, that you don't see today. Like Melo was the scoring title. He had the scoring title that year. Tyson Chandler had won the Defensive Player of the year before. We had Rookie of the Year consideration in Iman Shumpert. He was maybe like top 10 rookie. Then best 3-point shooter in the league in Steve Novak, Coach of the Year in Mike Woodson. So there was something to like in so many different ways about that team.
Six man with JR.
Six man with JR, right. And that was when JR was doing that funny thing where he's pretending like he didn't want to start. And they would ask him, like, do you want to start? He's like, never in my life do I want to start. He got traded to the Cavs. He was like, I want to start. But I mean, it was a healthy Amari Stoudemire away from being able to tangle with the Heat, I think. It was electric, and there were so many, I think, like fun moments. One of the best games actually is, I don't know if you remember, Max, Steph Curry's his coming out night, the 53 point game when he first debuted the shimmy.
Mm-hmm.
We won that game.
Yeah.
And that got me so fired up because ESPN the next day was 100% Steph Curry this and Steph Curry that. And I'm like, Melo might have taken 50 shots to get there, but he got 40 points that night. And he screamed, "Get the fuck out of here," when someone tried to grab his rebound. So I don't know why we're all talking about Steph Curry. I think that Knicks was especially fun. I'm trying to think of like signature moments. Iman Shumpert's putback dunk was ridiculous. Beating Celtics in the first round was so sweet.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, there was one play where Kevin Garnett had the ball at like the triple threat, and they pivot, and he was just pivoting, and then they zoomed in and no one saw it. He took 14 steps, just tap back and forth, and the Celtics won that game. And the next day, J.R. Smith said, "I should be golfing today," and because it extended the series. And if that wasn't a perfect like representation of who he is, that was his mindset. But yeah, no, that was a really fun team, and I think it's like an interesting relic into like the old NBA. So that was the year that really got me into it. And the last thing I do remember was, for whatever reason, I'm sure, Anthony, everyone in your high school was a Celtics fan outside of two weird kids, and Max probably same thing with Warriors. There was not a lot of hometown love in Maplewood, New Jersey, and I do think New York City is more of a transplant city than your two towns, and I think that affects the outlying suburbs too. So people were picking and choosing, and I was going to war every single day after a Knicks game, and I was running my mouth in those homerooms. And I remember after we beat the Celtics, I came and there were these kids you know, the kids who just never went to class, they just sat at the lockers and just talk shit all day. They had been giving me so much. I had to hear from them so much about the Knicks can't do this and they can't do that. And when we beat the Celtics and advanced to the next round, I walked in and they waited in line and like as if I was like some mafia don, like paying respects. They all dapped me up as I walked in the classroom, and they were like, "All right, you've earned our respect." So that was there was social status on the line of these people. So
Unreal.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Next section, Anthony, do you want to take this too?
Oh, yes. Okay. So, Mark, quiz time for you. I know that your arrival as a Knicks fan may have been relatively recent.
Yeah.
Fantastic first few moments, by the way. Here's the quiz for you. Beginning in the 99 to 2000 season, there have been 7 Knicks players to don an all-star jersey. Can you name as many of those 7 as possible?
Will you buzz me if I get one wrong?
Yeah.
All right. So Melo Randall, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Is it while playing as a Knick?
Yeah.
While as a Knick, correct.
Okay. No D Rose.
Right.
So you said 92?
99.
99 to 2000. So the All-Star game happened in the 2000 year. So
I know Ewing retired in like 2003, but I think his last year was 20. And there's no way in his last year he was an all-star unless he was getting that Dirk vote. I'm gonna say no Ewing. Stoudemire.
Yep.
I've got 3.
You have 3.
It's over. Staps.
Yep. I'd say you can almost probably get the fifth one. The other 2 are tough. You want years?
Yeah, give me years.
2010 is one of them. 2001 is one of them, and then 2001 is the third one.
David Lee?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was
yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got all of like the post Lee love when he was on the Warriors when I started watching, and people were kind of being like, "Oh, what did we had such a good one there." Okay, 2001.
Yeah, both of these guys were on the All-Star team.
With all due respect, is it Mark Jackson?
No.
Great question. No,
that's a good.
Great.
He was all in around then. God, that would have been lit if I got it.
These are tough.
These are polls.
In Houston?
Yeah! Let's go.
That's the 2001, right? Let's go.
That's 2001. He was back to back.
I hesitated because I thought he was like, again, I'm bad with the timeline. I'm thinking he was like early 90s. But no, all right, let's go.
Dude, one more.
One more? Oh, I'm cooked. I'm not getting one more. What? It's also 2001.
You're 67. Yeah, also 2001. If you get this is crap.
This is the hardest.
Carlos Oakley? No.
Is that your final guess? Okay.
No. Wait, but I don't get finite guesses. Oakley Sprewell was 2000.
No.
Sprewell.
Let's go.
I wouldn't recognize Sprewell if I saw him on the street. I just heard the I'm going off. I'm like trying to pull memories from podcasts here, you know.
Legendary.
Damn.
Honestly, very good performance. What, 9 guesses for 7 guys? Pretty good.
But I was also
didn't even guess.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying you didn't even guess the person you wanted to say. Oh, yeah, you didn't give Ewing the nod. So I'd say you went 7 for 8.
I'm surprised. Yeah, no, I don't know why. That's lucky because I was going to say like, all right, let me just throw a Hail Mary and see if Ewing was later on.
What?
Well, interesting. So Patrick Ewing, he, as I'm sure you know, Mark, he didn't finish up on the Knicks. So I think he might have gone to a different team by the year 2000. So whether he made an All-Star team might not have been them. He was Seattle in the 2000 was his last year with the Knicks, and then he was with Seattle and then Orlando. Raptors is the key.
It's one of those cursed, like seeing a Jordan in a Wizards jersey. It just doesn't sit right with you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
well, I think we covered everything. This was a super long podcast. And Mark, thank you for hopping on, being our first guest.
I want one question from you guys.
Yes.
One question from you guys before we sign off is I want to talk about how your perception of the Knicks has changed in the Tom Thibodeau era, because you guys had a lot of jokes over the years. And I kind of want to enjoy how I think there's been a revitalization and what you guys think that kind of means for the NBA.
I mean, I think it's great for the NBA. I thought if you had told me the day Tom Thibodeau got hired that this would be the outcome, I would take that no matter what. Even at the time, I would have been shocked if you had told me the Knicks were about to make three out of 4 playoff appearances, right? Is his time up? Maybe not, but this is it's so much more of a respectable situation, team, culture, etc. than previous. Even with Melo, as much as those teams were fun, it was the just trying to be a super team sort of thing. It's kind of to be honest, those Melo teams kind of remind me of the Bulls nowadays, who threw together DeRozan, Levine, and Vucevic. It's just not good enough, But
you go be on a team.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's and Stoudemire, had Stoudemire been healthy, it'd probably changed the whole narrative of that team, to be honest. But he wasn't, and to me, it's great. I think it's great for basketball that the Knicks are good. I think you guys are a really fantastic team, good organization. I think Leon Rose, a great job. I think he deserves a ton of praise.
I think Leon's solid. I think he gets it right 2 out of 3 times. The Obi was a miss, but you get Hart, you get Brunson, whatever.
I also don't think you guys have made any huge misses, and that's another thing.
And speaking on that, after 2012, 2013, everything fell apart, and it continued to stay apart for a while. After 2021, we had the hangover. Everything fell apart. Took care of it the next year. Right back to the playoffs. So I do have faith in the front office in that way.
Anthony?
Yeah. Look, the Knicks were a laughing stock for the mid 2010s for sure. After Melo kind of fell off, you had a couple Kristaps years. You had that super team year with Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose. So, I mean, the laughing stock was well deserved. I'm very impressed by what they've done. I'm with you guys both. It's great to see the Knicks as a good team, and I'm happy that they're a good team because now, Mark, I can actually talk shit about your team instead of not caring enough about them as a franchise.
I didn't even feel worthy of being. You would talk shit, and I'd be like, "Yeah, you're the Celtics. We're the Knicks." Now I'm like, no, I want to talk about that Jaylen Brown contract. That's
exactly. So look, all I've got to say is, if we meet in the playoffs, look out, my friend. That's all it is. Now it's on site, which is good. It's nice to say that finally.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again, Mark. Anything else that you guys want to touch on?
That does it. Yeah. Go Knicks, baby.
Anthony?
No, man. I mean, as always, Mark, thank you very much for coming on this podcast. And until then, we'll be chilling here. As always, spitting hoops on camera, off camera, on the group chat, wherever you look, we're there talking. So,
peace out.